Hey everyone, welcome to Be Our Guest, our weekly virtual happy hour with industry professionals. I'm Janki. I am the artistic director of Live in Color. For those of us, a few who don't know us, we are a not-for-profit theater based both in New York and Connecticut. Our mission is to develop new plays and musicals that promote and celebrate diversity while in-person programs. We're really happy to be offering what this is. So you can see that now I do it. Please welcome the wonderful Anjul Nigam.
Hey guys.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Cheers. Cheers.
I think hold on, before we go on, I just want to check my audio because apparently I got a note.
In typical Indian fashion, our audio goes out.
I am so happy to have you here. I'm such a fan. I've followed your career for so many years, and I can't believe we have not met yet.
Pleasure. Likewise.
Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Sherman Oaks, California, Los Angeles. And you know, where it's 85 degrees and perfect weather today. So
that's lovely. Well, we're back to that today. Yesterday we had a crazy storm that blew down all the trees, but you guys are used to those storms. So.
Yeah, exactly.
How's quarantine been treating you? What have you been doing to keep busy?
You know, I've been busy work-wise, constantly busy, which is great. But you know, it's a household that's my wife who's working on Zoom. Yeah. And my kids who are working or playing roadblocks and so forth on Zoom or whatever it is that they do. I have no idea. But everybody's on devices and everybody's can hear each other in their communication. So if you see a kid whiz by or hear them in audio in the background, you know, they're busy with their stuff while we try to do this.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I wanted to start at the beginning. You grew up. You were born in India, but grew up in near New Haven, Connecticut, a small town. And in fact, where you grew up is right near where Live in Color has their annual retreat. So we're just down the road from you.
Where is that?
Salem, Connecticut.
Salem, of course.
Yeah. I'm curious, what led you to pursue acting?
The 10 Commandments.
Really?
I was 8 years old, and our immigrant Indian family must have been 1972 or so. No, 73, 74. I can't do the math, but we were watching the 10 Commandments while we were eating samosas. And when Moses comes down from the mountain, that had like one of those revelations in my soul, which was like, I want to do that. I want to walk down a mountain and have this look in my face, which is that I've been touched by God. So I started walking around, walking like Moses, as if I've just seen God. Wow. And I continued this craziness where I got a stick. I called it my staff. And, you know, my friends on Argyle Road in Connecticut, where I grew up, were playing cops and robbers, and here I was walking around with my staff, like, now you shall see the power of God, and I'd be opening up the Red Sea. So that was probably 73, I think, 74. Wow. And in 1982, having spent a good 8, 9 years talking about I'm going to be an actor when I grow up. I'm going to be just like Moses, just like Charlton Heston. My parents had heard this, for almost a decade. And when it came time to start looking at summer arts programs and summer whatever programs were available as a high school student, I found out about this program called Center for Creative Youth in Wesleyan. And now this is the summer of 1982. I was 16. I got into the program and full scholarship. And, but it was also the summer that I had my driver's license and I got 3 jobs. I got a job at Dairy Queen. I got a job at Marshall's, and I got a job at McDonald's. And
you were in high demand.
Yeah, I was in high demand. I was ready to do 3 jobs and save enough money, and be cool as a kid with a driver's license in Connecticut. My parents sat me down, and you'll understand this, being a parent of being an immigrant actually in the 80s, I guess, 1982. My parents sat me down and they're like, you talk about you want to be an actor. You've been walking around like Moses for the past 8 years. If you really want to do this, why don't you go and find out and spend 5 weeks at Wesleyan for creative, and they figure it out. Little did they know that they were encouraging me to be an actor on a professional level. And I went where I met your executive director, Michael Graziano. Yeah. And ended up leaving, and Michael could attest for this. It was one of those programs that makes you look at things from 110% perspective, rather than, you do it, you dabble in it, you try it. No, it was like, if you want to do this, you got to put your heart and soul into it 110%. So when it came time to apply for colleges, I only applied for programs that had drama degrees in it. And I ended up at New York University Tisch School as a result.
That's so wonderful. And obviously NYU was great for you because you ended up moving right out of college to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What were your first few years in LA like when you went out there?
Let's see. I was a messenger. I waited tables at, I'd say, probably 6, 7 different restaurants. Most of them I got fired at because they didn't like my attitude. I was a waiter with an attitude. It wasn't. I was so above everyone that I was serving that I was like, well, I ended up probably doing all kinds of survival work and eating tuna and ramen noodles for a good 4 years.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was extremely hard. And, people would always say, hey, you're going to look back on these times and remember them fondly. To this day, I'm 54 years old. I don't remember those times fondly, and never will. But, it was a different period. It was 1989 when I moved out to LA. The first week I was in LA, it was January 4th, 1989. The first 2 weeks, Ronald Reagan was still president of the United States. And, right after that, George H.W. Bush, I think is the senior, he was inaugurated. And that was the beginning of a different era. And it wasn't until 93, 94 that I finally started making a living as an actor. So,
well, and what a living you've made. Your career has been extraordinary, and we'll talk more about your acting in a bit. But in addition to the acting, you're also a crazy successful producer and writer. What made
crazy being the operative word?
Well, we're all crazy. What made you want to explore these other disciplines?
Early in my career, I was always like, I'm just going to be an actor and that's it. I'm going to be an actor and I'm going to, you have this misconception that there's an opportunity for hundreds and if not thousands of Brad Pitts and Tom Cruises out there. And I believed that I would fit right in and become the next Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt. And it's a misconception based on several factors, but the obvious is there's only room for a good 5 or 6 of them. And and the fact is, when you're young, you're shrouded in this idea that you can do everything and anything. And that's true to a certain degree, you can, but you also have to be in tune with what the realities of the market are.
Yeah.
And what I realized as I started making a living as an actor is that I'd make a good living, but I was doing roles that weren't creatively fulfilling. And my first project I got involved with in a producing level was a movie that ultimately I made called Growing Up Smith.
Yeah, which was wonderful.
Thank you. But it started off as me being attached to it as an actor.
There you are.
There you go. And I got the rights to it from a wonderful writer who'd written the original draft of the movie called, at that point it was called Good Old Boy. And I got the rights and I rewrote it more from my own immigrant experience of having been an immigrant in small town suburbia in Connecticut. And then from that, I brought on board another writer, Paul Quinn. He and I did another draft, and we were ultimately going to make this movie as soon as we were done with the draft that we were ready to shoot. And, we got financing, which never came through. We got financing, never came through. And we went on a cycle for 10 years of thinking that
that long that it took.
Yeah, it was a 10-year journey. So we finished the draft that we eventually shot in 2004. And it wasn't until 2014 that we were financed and we're up and running. I mean, to give you a little perspective, I mean, life unfolds the way it should. Paul Quinn, who had joined me as a writer and was going to direct the movie, by the time we actually got greenlit, he was ill and he subsequently passed away. And my producing partner, Frank Lotito, ended up directing it. And, he's done a fabulous job of the movie. It was a great team effort. Greg Houghton having written the original, and then, Paul Quinn and I writing another version, and Steve Straka and Frank Lotito producing it with me. And, we finally got it made.
Well, it's such a beautiful film. For anyone who hasn't seen it, please go check it out. It seems like just a deeply personal film to you. And how much of it is inspired by your own personal experiences?
Well, if anyone has seen it, or if I'm not going to give anything away that's a spoiler, but there's a trick-or-treating scene where my character, and I play essentially the dad. The story is about an immigrant family that moves to small town USA in the year 79. I play the dad. We have a son by the name of Smith. We've named him Smith because, we want him to fit in. We don't realize it's a last name. But anyway, he grows up. I mean, he's growing up with his sister, who's about 2-3 years older than him. And we're trying to find a balance of fitting in, but also preserving our heritage from the old country. And finding a balance for any immigrant is not an easy thing, because you're holding on to these ideals that you grew up with in your old country, but you're also trying to progress in the new country. And in order to progress, there's certain new ideologies you need to accept. And that's the balance that the parents are constantly dealing with. Meanwhile, the kids, Smith and his sister, are exploring everything that is Western, including eating meat. And, our family is vegetarian and so forth. So what was your question?
I was just saying how much of it reflects your own experience.
Oh, yeah. So there's a scene in there where the trick-or-treaters come on Halloween night, and, my character pulls out what he's planned to give instead of candy is coins, but not just regular coins on a piece of on a plate that are flat in one level, like not piled up. And he offers the coins to the trick-or-treaters. Take as much as you want, go ahead. And of course, when you're trick-or-treating and you try to grab coins from a plate that are flat, you're not going to get more than one or two. And from my character's perspective, it's sort of like trick or treat. You got tricked. So, where did I get that? My father, to this day, he still, lives on the same street, the same house we grew up in.
Wow.
He's 85, and if you go trick or treating at his house, he still might be giving out coins.
I'll stop by next Halloween. Yeah. You have so many projects. One of which is. you produced the Tribeca film hit Crown Vic along with Alec Baldwin. How did this collaboration come about?
My second film was with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Richard Dreyfuss. It was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s directorial debut, and he was also starring in it with Richard Dreyfuss. There was another actor in it whose name is Greg Bello, and he was watching me produce this movie called Bayou Caviar that Cuba was directing. And he kept on, saying to me, "Hey, you're an actor, but you're producing. How did you do that?" And I'm like, 10 years. That's how I got my first one made. And he kept on, picking my brain and saying, I got a project. It's called Crown Vic, and Alec Baldwin is doing it. And I'm like, everybody's got a project with some big A-level talent. Yeah, right, whatever. And finally, when Greg Bello sends the script to me, I ended up falling in love with it, and it was written by Joel Souza, who directed it as well. And I was like, wow, this is Training Day. It's more contemporary, and it's about a veteran cop and a rookie cop one night in training. And Alec was going to play the veteran cop. I come on board, and within a couple of months, we were able to put the financing together. But right during that 2-month period, we ended up losing an actor who was going to play the rookie cop, and which had a domino effect where Alec had Motherless Brooklyn to shoot, and he had hip surgery, and he had a baby on the way, his fourth baby under age 5 coming. And so he was like, if we don't recast the rookie cop within 2 weeks, we would end up losing Alec as well based on his schedule. And sadly, we ended up like having the financing in place, but lost both actors. But Alex stayed on board as a producer, and we ended up determining, that there's opportunities for us to do other stuff. And I'm in the midst right now of producing a movie with him that's a Western that he's starring in. It's called Rust. Yeah, we just announced it last month. It's a movie where he's playing the title role of Rust, and he and I are producing. And I'm doing another project with him in which he's starring, which we'll be announcing as very soon as well.
It's a collaboration made in heaven if you're working on all the projects together.
Yeah. It's a lot of this collaboration happens is as long as you remain, you fulfill what you say you're going to do, and you remain a good person. Cuba and I actually met on 1989. My first gig in LA outside of waiting tables was an episode of Growing Pains, the TV show with Kirk Cameron. and I was the lead guest on this episode, and Cuba had like 1 or 2 lines, and we ended up becoming friends on that episode. And, over the years, we've stayed in touch. And when we were doing the next movie after Growing Up Smith, it came together because of the personal relationship that existed. So.
Yeah, it's so true how this business works, just the ebb and flow of it and how people come back into your life. You've been named by the publication Desi Beat as one of the top 50 most influential South Asians in the world.
You can't believe everything you read in the internet, I'll tell you that.
Some people look up to you. When you were growing up, did you have any role models or people that you looked up to in the industry?
Other than Charlton Heston? Believe it or not, the people I looked up to was Lee Majors from $6 Million Man.
Yes.
I remember watching in the late 70s, I remember watching $6 Million Man and thinking, my God, if I could just have a TV show where I could run in slow motion and be going 60 miles per hour, and I got epaulettes on my shirts because Steve Austin, the man barely alive on $6 Million Man, on every one of his wardrobe, any one of his outfits, he always had epaulettes. And I thought that was real cool. So that was one actor, Lee Majors, who I really, really looked up to. Never met him, and would love to someday. And then there was, some of the Bollywood stars. It's a given. Amitabh Bachchan and Sholay was what really, really inspired me in terms of the creative side.
And now you're inspiring so many people. You played Pandit Raj on the hit Netflix show Never Have I Ever, which is just, there you are. Such an amazing performance, such a great character. It's really receiving so much praise for the representation it brings to the South Asian community. Do you think South Asian representation in the entertainment industry is increasing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When I first started off, I came to the States, to LA, as I mentioned, in '89. There was two elements to this. One, the opportunity to audition for a role was usually limited to roles that were written with East Indian was the phrase that was often used, or South Asian is what they essentially meant. Because East Indian could be anyone from, a Native American Indian living in the East Coast would be East Indian as well. But I found that my competition at that point, I'm not sure, something's happening with, are you guys able to see me still?
Yeah. We're still there.
Okay. So my screen has gone black for whatever reason. At that point, I would say I was, auditioning and seeing the same group of 3 or 4 people at every audition, and that was it. And as I continued to get more and more work begets work. You get credentials, people know you more, and the roles increase in significance and substantiality, which is a positive thing. However, as the 90s progressed, I think when I graduated from NYU in '88 with a degree in drama, maybe there was 1 or 2 others in the US, but, probably by the end of the 90s, there must have been a good 20 to 30 from our heritage graduating from with degrees in drama from throughout the US. And now, my guess, who knows? It might be hundreds. So the competition certainly increased, but the roles also expanded in terms of the idea of colorblind writing is what I mean. And it's not necessarily about casting, it's about writing. Writing meaning that if the ethnicity isn't relevant to the story, why can't the character be of any ethnicity? And that's begun to happen more and more in the last 5 to 10 years, I believe. And there's been some tremendous actors coming up the ranks that have studied it. What I felt like is we had a monopoly. There was 3-4 of us who actually studied acting and went to, majored in drama in the late 80s, early 90s, but there wasn't enough opportunities to use that, that training. But now, there's so many who are so well trained that, I applaud it. But it's like, hey, come on, guys, give us a little break. Just pretend like you're not good. So.
That's so great. Well, you have so many fans, and we have someone who's one of your biggest fans who's wanting to say hello. You've known him for quite some time. Please welcome Live and in Color's Executive Director, Michael Graziano.
Hello. I don't know. Can you even see me, Anjul?
Yes. Oh my God.
I know. We have
God, for everyone out there, I literally have not seen Michael in since 1984, 83, maybe.
Right, 83, 84.
Tell everyone how you met.
Wow. In 1982, Center for Creative Youth was a summer arts program at Wesleyan University in Connecticut. And both of us were from Connecticut suburban towns, neighboring towns, Southington and Cheshire, Connecticut. And we met at that program summer of '82 at Wesleyan. My God.
Yes, hello. So good to see you. You didn't have a beard then.
Nor did you. You had a mustache. You always had that mustache.
I didn't have a mustache. I was
you
call me Tom Selleck. That was
wow.
Tom Selleck was my Lee Majors.
That's right. Magnum PI.
Yes, exactly.
So good to see you, Michael.
Yeah,
oh my God.
You too.
And I really admire what you guys are doing with the theater company, and congrats to everything you guys have been doing. in New York and Connecticut.
Well, thank you. Well, Michael has been such an essential part of all our work, and is a dear friend, and has been speaking about you for so long and trying to get you to get on the show. I wanted to ask you, so the work Michael and I do together and our whole team, Live in Color's mission is to connect diverse communities to create new stage works. And for you, what does having a diverse working environment mean to you?
First of all, allowing people to participate, especially those who don't get an opportunity on mainstream media.
Yeah.
And making an affirmative decision to make sure we're inclusive in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Not like out of default because it needs to fulfill a certain mandate, but really out of recognizing that we all are human beings and we can all create amazing work. However, the ones that aren't getting the opportunity should be given a hand to lean on and provided a platform to do so. Whether it's women, person of color, disability, all of that.
Yeah, so true. I think we have some questions from our viewers. Let's see. Alyssa says, what are you currently enjoying watching? Is there anything you think everyone must watch? Thank you.
Well, what I'm not enjoying watching, and yet I watch, is the news on CNN. and as much as I'm ready to watch something else, I think that the Times keeps us glued to watching CNN to a certain degree. But there's a part of me that is watching things like what do you call it, Jeopardy and a Match Game and so forth, just because it's kind of like, hey, this is easy. I don't have to really focus too much. Our days are already compounded with so much challenge, because when you see what's going happening around our world right now, you can't help and feel like this is a part of us that's happening, whether you're directly affected by it or not. But this is our humankind. So I'm enjoying Jeopardy quite a bit, quite honestly.
It's a good cleansing of the palate, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good phrase.
Let's see what else we have here. Robert Duran says, you have so much experience acting in movies, TV, and theater. As an actor, do you have a preference?
I prefer to make good money. that is a good preference. However, creatively, when we were just talking about this, Dave and I, creatively, there's something amazing about the theater, which provides you an opportunity to experience the life of the character in a realistic timeline, which often in film and TV you don't. It's broken up. It's separated into segments. But in theater, it's you have a fully realized arc within a scene that's in real time, and that's a phenomenal experience. So,
well, as I was saying, I hope we can get you back to the stage. Oh, look, you have a message from Nihar.
I'm gonna pretend I don't know him, but Nihar has two twins. How redundant is that? He's got twins on the way, and congrats to Nihar.
Congratulations! That's very exciting. But yes, I hope we get you back to the stage someday.
We will, yeah.
We are almost out of time, but before we go, I just want to say how proud I am of the work we all do at Live and in Color, and that our work is to foster inclusive environments and create platforms that showcase underrepresented voices. I really believe the stories we tell can change hearts and minds. If you can, please consider making a donation to theaterincolor.org to support our work and our artists. Also, be sure to tune in to be our guest next week for a very special episode dedicated to Broadway stage managers. We will be talking to three of Broadway's very best Narda Alcorn, Beverly Jenkins, and Alex Volkhausen. It promises to be an amazing conversation. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. And thank you, Anjul. Thank you, Michael. It's such a pleasure to have you. Would you mind leading us in a little toast as we...
absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to say, hey, to prosperity, to unity, to recognizing that, hey, we're on the same planet here. So let's all really like respect each other, because that's what it's about. Love and respect.
Hear, hear. Cheers. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
The mornings run together. Seems like one long day. You're going through the motions. What does it matter? Does it matter anyway? Wishing things were different. When the world is cold and gray, it's the same old song that's playing, with the same old things to say. Someone should mix things up, someone should take a chance, someone should sing a new number, someone should dance a new dance, and change the story. Come on and change the scene. Choose the beginning, the end, and in between. It's time to change the story. It's time to change the tune. See how the future looks bright. Change on the horizon. Coming soon. And suddenly you're not lonely. Burned out from 9 to 5. Suddenly you have purpose. You feel alive. Here everyone is welcome. Come in love and dignity. 'Cause when we come together, that's when we're truly free. Come on and mix things up. Come on and take a chance. Come on and sing a new number.